And good evening, good night to the special guest.
Yes. Good evening, good night. Happy to be here.
Mr. Taj Weekes, introduce yourself to the people.
Taj Weekes. That's about all I can say.
Okay, we're gonna go a little bit deeper and get to know the man, the artist, the person, because I've read great things about you. We'll get to that later on. But let's start off with the music. When did you begin in the music? I know you have a band by the name of Adawa, and you were the lead singer. So tell us a little bit more of your musical journey and when it began.
The journey started when we were little children. What we used to do for entertainment in my house. So we would line up in the living room and sing to my parents. You know, that was the evening's entertainment. And everything kind of just grew from that. We sang in church, we sang in school. And it was my 4 brothers and I, so we did a little thing where we sang at all the stage shows on the island. And then everything kind of progressed from that.
Okay, and when you speak of that island, that is St. Lucia.
St. Lucia, yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Then I moved to North America and kind of started doing the same thing over. Went to school in Canada for a bit. Then I moved to New York. And what I did for a while was I used to use pre-recorded music, and I would sing over that in every restaurant I could find. And one time we were in a restaurant and a guy came in and said, there's a show at SOB's that must have been sometime in the 90s. It was called Future Reggae. So we came on, did the Future Reggae with him, and I had to get a band to get that to happen. And we just kind of built everything around that.
Okay. Now, speaking of the band, once again the name is Adawa. I've read that you've chosen members from various different Caribbean countries. Tell us what went into putting your band together.
Well, it kind of happened on its own. It was an organic thing. It wasn't like I planned it out this way. When we did the show at SOB's, the band before me and the band after me liked what it is that we were doing. And the guys became the core members of the band from that particular show. So it so happened that we had, when the show was done, the drummer, Cornell Marshall, who used to be the original drummer for Third World, and for Zap Howe, became our drummer. Delroy Golding, who played percussion with Burning Spear, became our percussion player. Adonai Xavier played guitar with Dennis Brown, became a guitar player. Raj Desiree from Dominica, Chatham Gunn from the US. So that's kind of how it got together. Everybody came with their little island vibe, and it just became the core of the band.
And that is still the members of the band to this time?
Yeah, for the most part. The drummers changed, but for the most part the band is the same.
Okay. So, I know you've produced yourself three albums in the past.
3 studio albums and
3
a live
studio
album,
albums. You also own your own record label that you release your music on.
Yeah, because that's the only way to go.
Okay. Now, as a young artist, your musical journey, did you start out with that mindset that you wanted to release your music off of your own record label, or did you go through a record label and had problems and then decided to venture off on your own?
No. The idea was always to have my own label. I had seen the shortcomings and the fallings of the people who had done it before, and realized that the only way to make this sustainable was to own it. So from the time I started off, I created my own label. I mean, I have distribution arrangements with different people. Like on the upcoming album, VP does the distribution, but it's still my label putting it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very, it's good to hear, because within the reggae music, I don't think that there's enough artists that do that for themselves. So it's a beautiful thing that you're doing. I hope younger artists hear this and take heed and try to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe enough in the product that you're selling, why not own it? Why give it to somebody else? I mean, we're living in 2015. we have traveled and come enough to realize that we need to own this thing. Because you're working and you're throwing all your pearls away to the swine. I mean, how can you ever reap any benefit out of it if you do it that way? So yeah, I mean, it would be a wise thing to do, to go that way and own what it is that you're putting out, if you believe enough in it.
Okay, and touching back on the different members of your band again and coming together, what would you say is your sound as a band as a whole together?
The sound is the collective of everybody coming together from different islands. When we started off, we had a Jamaican drummer. We had a guitar player from Trinidad. We had another American guitar player. We had a Dominican bassman. Then there was I playing rhythm guitar and lead singer. So I mean, everybody brought in their influences, and collectively we tweaked it enough to make it our original sound. So whenever you hear a band, this is what you hear, and I think this is what has to be what kind of just keeps you apart from everybody else. Because as you know right now is one rhythm and 6 million people sing on it, and it's the same sound. Nobody has an original sound except for the voicing on that rhythm. But I think that probably might be the detriment to music, because there's not enough original sounds. I mean, I went to a party a couple of weeks ago, and for 2 hours I danced to the same song. It's just different guys singing on the same tune. And to me, that doesn't enable me to remain a musician. I need to be a musician, I need to create. Now, I'm not faulting the guys who cannot, and all they can do is sing on the rhythm. That is their thing. But for the music, long-term life, long-term liberty of this music, it has to be something that we create, and there has to be something sustainable to it. Because right now there's only 5 producers eating, if you do it that way, Yes. So I think guys have to realize that in order for them to own something, they need to create something and build a foundation around what it is that they've created. So yeah.
Okay, and keeping in tune with the music, looking at you, I could tell that you live a Rastafarian lifestyle. Is this the constant message in your music, or do you delve into social, economic problems and give that message throughout your music?
Yeah, but the Rastafarian movement is all of that. I mean, if you talk about the Rastafarian movement, you have to talk about the social, the health, the well-being. All of it is entwined within that message. I mean, if every tune I sing was about Rastafari, then I would be like a Christian. But Rastafari is life. So we have to sing about everything that goes on, And I think that's what we pride ourselves on. The fact that not only are we telling people to stick to the spiritual life, but we're teaching them how to deal with the everyday life in everything else that they do. So yeah, man, it would be kind of one-sided to say that we live a Rastafarian lifestyle, but we only sing about His Majesty in every tune. And the example set by His Majesty was about life across the board. Education, economics, sustainability, all of this is included in the Rastafarian lifestyle.
Okay, and coming from St. Lucia, who would you say was your musical inspiration before you got into the music that made you actually want to record?
My brother MPLA,
Okay.
I think was my greatest influence. I think a lot of people see influences externally, not within their own household, but within my own household. My brother MPLA was the first Rastaman that I knew, who lived the way I wanted to live, who taught me that salvation was within and not without, and that was my greatest influence. He taught me how to play the guitar. So yeah, my brother MPLA was my greatest influence.
Okay, you touched a little bit on the music. We're gonna get back to that in a minute. I wanna touch on you, the man, and the positive things that you're doing throughout the Caribbean, throughout Europe. I've been told that you do lectures in Europe. Tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Well, I do lectures everywhere. I happen to be the UNICEF champion for children for St. Lucia. I happen to have my own charity, which takes care of underprivileged and at-risk children in the Caribbean.
And this is Toco we're speaking about?
This is Toco.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, what I think as a community of people, when I was growing up, what I was taught from my brother in PLA and from my parents is, we are our brother's keeper, period. And that's the only way we can make things happen. We're not all in the same position at the same time. We cannot all afford the same things at the same time. So if you only pull somebody up, if you take a holistic approach to all of it, then you cannot do it any other way. Because wherever the least is suffering, you are suffering too. So I mean, that to me, that is the basic approach to it. My life is about walking the walk and talking the talk, because I know in this very music that we sing and play, I know brothers who talk plenty about Africa. I know brothers who talk about helping in their song, but yet when they get some dollars, that's not what they do. The word affluence for me means affleur, which comes from the French word to pass through. So hoarding it is not being affluent. Letting it pass through is being affluent. That's how you help. And then these things go around in circles and your blessings come again. So yeah. Okay,
and being that UNICEF ambassador that you are, what does that entail? What does UNICEF ask of you?
To just keep doing what I do. What UNICEF has brought to the table is the weight of the organization. So when I write to an organization, for example, we had the tragedy in Dominica. Before I would write as Taj Weekes for Toco, it opens up a lot more doors. So when tragedy hits, I can call somebody up as a UNICEF champion for children and get 1,500 pairs of shoes sent to Dominica. UNICEF gives me a certain amount of weight that I would not have otherwise had on my own.
Okay, that's beautiful, inspirational. Once again, I hope artists are listening and use their influence in the way that you're doing in such a positive manner. DJ Rich, there's another song off of the third album that's entitled Anthems of Hope. Can you play that for the listeners to hear?
Terrorist attack, 2 wars back to back, hurricanes, destruction, floods, earthquakes.
Yes. Song entitled Anthem of Hope. Beautiful song. Acoustic. I have a thing for acoustic music, so I'm especially biased for that one. Okay. That was off of your third studio album. What was the name of that project for the listeners?
A waterlogged soul kitchen.
Okay. Can you repeat that for me again?
A waterlogged soul kitchen.
Okay. And that's available now on all digital platforms?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Going back into the music, where is some of the places that you have performed as an artist throughout your musical career?
Well, we performed in America, obviously. States, I think in every state in the Union, we played in every state in America. Europe, France, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Well, I can't remember.
Okay. I'll help out the listeners. You could go online, find them performing at the Sierra Nevada World Music Festival.
Yeah, we just did that. That was
South by Southwest.
Yeah.
These are some of the biggest festivals in the United States of America.
Yeah. Well, there's a wonderful festival in Chicago called Bliss Fest.
Okay.
That we did a couple of years ago. And what I loved about Bliss Fest is the people who have the festival own the land. So, there's a lot going on in the mountains. They built roads into the mountains. And there are lots of little huts. Where, I mean, from now on, what most festivals do, you just don't play one show. So there's always like a lecture or some other thing happening. So with Bliss Fest, there's all those little sheds up in the hills. And you go there and there's a gathering of about 50 people. Where they get close and you do an acoustic set. And you speak to them about what it is that you do. And at night you come down and do the main stage. You know?
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of, we did a show in British Columbia called Salmon Arm. And they too do the same kind of thing. On different days, we headed the social stage where we spoke about the messages in the songs with all the other artists, and then another day you play main stage, and lots of festivals I find now are asking not just for one performance, 2 and sometimes even 3 of them.
Okay, and touching on Europe, where are some of the places that you've traveled? Have you been to Africa performing as an artist?
No, but I have a little spot in Morocco.
Okay.
Where I love to be. Yeah.
Okay, it's beautiful. Japan?
No.
Okay. Hopefully your journey takes you to Japan.
Yeah, man, wherever it leads,
Okay. And this coming February, you have a new project that you'll be releasing, and this is entitled Love, Herb,
And reggae.
and Reggae.
Love, herb, and reggae.
Okay, let's start by explaining the title of the new project.
Well, I mean, the thing for me is I grew up for the longest while, and what we spoke about was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I thought that was kind of destructive. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I thought love instead of sex, herb instead of drugs, and reggae instead of rock and roll. So I figured we would move on with a new mantra, love, herb, and reggae, which was way more holistic than the other one was. So yeah, love, herb, and reggae.
Okay. Some of the listeners might understand the love, they understand the reggae. I want you to give your explanation of that word herb, because I know you're not talking about what people may think off the top.
We're talking about, I said at Sierra Nevada that the amount of reverence we give marijuana, we need to give to our women and children. And I say this to say that I think from the herb standpoint, we place way too much emphasis on smoking weed. Herb to me is a holistic lifestyle. From getting back to what was healing, parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, dandelion, root, olive leaf extract, all these herbs are for the healing. So I think people get so overly caught up with marijuana. Yes, we know the herb is really good and it's probably the most important herb, but yet there's so many other supporting herbs that we need to go back to, and that is the herb that we're talking about. Not just one herb, but herb across, a green life, a holistic life, an herbal life, back to how it used to be. That is the herb we're talking about.
Okay, so in your lecture, with you saying that, in your lectures, do you also speak about diet and food lifestyle and what we put into our bodies?
Well, it depends if it goes there. The theme of last year's lecture was reggae is a verb. Reggae is a doing word. It's a giving word. It's a moving word. It's not just something we sing and then we move away and don't even live it. It's a lifestyle, it's a way of life. When I was growing up, what I was taught about the music was that it was a sustainable kind of music. It was supposed to lift the people out of the drudgery that they lived in. So you had to help your brother and pull him up and tell him when he went wrong and teach him, not in a condescending way, but in an uplifting way. So, but in talking about this, obviously, because I wear locks and I am a Rastaman, the herb conversation always comes up. But I also say to people, when I watch my brother smoke herb when I was growing up, they didn't smoke herb and sit in a corner and daydream. they smoked herb and they worked. There was always a movement, you know, so you have to let people know that, you know, if you're going to smoke weed, you can't just smoke weed and get hungry and sit down in a corner and joke, and that's all you do, you know. Herb is supposed to give you some time for yourself at the end of your day. When it tends to pile on and you need a little meditation. You know, there are herbs for everything, but that particular herb is what I feel should be used in that particular time. It's not a joke thing. Some people take it for a joke.
Okay, and is that the entire theme for the upcoming project?
No, well, there's love. Love. And that love is a non-judgmental love. I tell people you cannot tell people who to love. You cannot tell people and dictate to them who it is that they can love. Because, you know, I mean, if I see a woman walking down the street, my head would swing for the woman. But there's some people, that's not what turns their head. Now, for some people, it might be a man who turns their head. And I know that's really taboo in the reggae community, but I'm saying it is not my position to tell somebody who they should love. Okay. I refuse to point a finger and make a judgment call on that.
Have you had any backlash or negative feedback from other artists because of that stance?
Well, I've gotten lots of messages in my inbox. But, you know, just leave our judgment onto him.
Okay.
Simple.
For the upcoming project, you work with a band. Is there particular producers you're working with?
No, we do most of the work ourselves. We have Sydney Mills from Steel Pots doing some remixes on some of the tunes, but for the most part, you know, I think it's probably over 100 years of experience with all the guys in the band. So we can do that ourselves.
And what can the listeners expect from the upcoming project?
It's a departure from what we've done in the past, simply because in the past I would sit with my acoustic guitar and find 4 or 5 chords and sing mostly over minor chords. This time we've mixed up the majors and the minors to suit and carry the weight of the words. For the most part, that's kind of what I'm known for, the lyrical content. So we've used chords to support the words. I mean, there's a song on the album with 39 chord changes, which is not, it's unheard of in a reggae song. It's unheard of in a lot of songs, period. 39 chord changes, but I figured, for me as an artist, at the end of the day, I need to sit back and watch my collection of work and be proud of what it is that I've done. Don't matter to me if anybody else is proud. You know, because I would hate for at the end of the day, I sit back and everybody loves what I do and I hate what I do. You know? So hopefully we can find a balance between having people like what we do and we liking what we do.
And of the 3 studio albums, is there one that you hold closest to your heart, or you would say is your favorite album of the 3?
No, I don't think I don't think it would be a favorite. I mean, they're all my creations. But I think the first album probably holds something a little more dear because we played the local scene in New York for a while, and then we went regional, and then we went international, and then we decided to put out an album. We called the album Hope and Doubt, because these were the emotions I was going through. I was hopeful, and there were people around me who were doubtful about what I was doing and whether or not I should leave a regular paying job to do this. You know, so it was my firstborn, so to speak. And there's always some other little vibe, you know, with the firstborn. Okay.
DJ Rich, we got some music off of the first album, the first studio album. Can you touch Jagged for the listeners to hear? Jagged, name of the song. Beautiful music from our special guest in the house tonight, Mr. Taj Weekes. Very inspirational, great voice, great voice. Touching back on again, You the Man. There's so much that I've seen that you've been doing online, apart from Toka. Is Toka geared towards just the kids and helping the kids, or do you go outside of helping the children in what you do in St. Lucia?
I mean, the idea of Toka is, when we started it off, was to help underprivileged and at-risk children in the Caribbean. But it's not, Toka is not, our mission is not engraved in stone. So I found myself doing things that have touched me along the way, because we did, a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, I did something called a clothesline project. The clothesline project is on domestic abuse. Now, we know in the Caribbean, there's a host of domestic abuse that we don't talk about. So what we did was, we had women write on t-shirts the form of abuse they're going through, and we hung it in a public place. And we had counselors on the outskirts who would help the women when they come. It was kind of set down in that way because we wanted people to know that they were not alone. So, and I love the heading one of the newspapers gave it was airing your dirty laundry. So Friday night there was nothing there, and Saturday morning you woke up, there were about 500 t-shirts with, writings on it, and people were walking through and people were breaking down because they were realizing that they were not alone, and the counselors were right there to help them out. It was something that actually started in Massachusetts. Long time ago, I went to play a college in Massachusetts years ago, and there were t-shirts on the back wall, and I asked about it. And how it came about was, the war was going on, and people were coming back injured. And I think one woman in the community said, we're paying attention to injured soldiers, but there are more women being battered and bruised by people living in that particular community way more than the soldiers who were coming home. So that's kind of what it started. So we've taken it on and taken it to the Caribbean. And it's been fairly successful. I think we've done it for about 3 consecutive years now, and the intention is to take it to other Caribbean islands. Pointing no fingers at all. Trinidad has the highest rate of domestic abuse in the Caribbean. So that's someplace we want to take it. And we want to take it to Jamaica. We want to take it to Dominica. We actually started trying to take it to St. Vincent when the last storm hit. What was its name? Sandy. When Sandy hit, and we were all prepared to get it done. And it didn't happen. Excuse me. But these are some of the things that I find myself doing that was not in the script of Toka. We're fighting in diabetes. St. Lucia has the highest rate of diabetes per capita in the world. So we found ourselves fighting diabetes. I brought down 2,700 diabetes testers, and we gave it away to people who are diabetes so they can check their blood sugar. Because at some point we were up to, I think, 3 amputations a week. In a population of 170,000 people. If you keep cutting 3 legs every week, soon there won't be anybody walking around.
One question I want to ask you with what you're saying. How do you find out these statistics? Do you have people doing research within your charity organization to find the statistics that you're speaking of?
These are governmental statistics.
Okay.
We went to St. Lucia some years ago, and I brought down, I think it was 500, and that's how I found out about this. I brought down about 500 balls and 600 uniforms to give away to the kids. And when we were giving it away, somebody said to me, well, that's good because now we can stem the tide on diabetes. And I said, diabetes? What do you mean about diabetes? You don't have diabetes. And I was led, and shown the statistics, and I was taken to the hospital and realized that, excuse me, we had tons of people on dialysis. with a waiting list of hundreds. And for the people who don't know, when you get on dialysis, that's it. You can't come back. You get on dialysis, and if you don't keep doing dialysis forever, that's it, you're gonna die. You know, so, you know, we got into it because of the balls, and people told us, and, you know, we've been fighting diabetes ever since. I made a public service announcement, and actually I'm just finishing off a diabetes documentary that I made on St. Lucia. We started 4 years ago. We let 4 years pass to see if the tide on diabetes would change. And it's basically exactly where we left it.
Okay.
You know, so these are some of the things that you find yourself tumbling into, not because it's in the mission statement of my organization, but because we find ourselves there and we feel that we cannot turn our backs on it, you know, we have to do something.
Okay, so far, Toka has helped abused children, abused women, diabetic patients. What more are you doing? I know there's more you're doing, and I'm waiting for you to actually say it to the listeners, but there's a lot more you're doing. It's surprising the projects that you're taking on.
Well, we just came back 2 weeks ago, and I have to tell you the story. Last year, we took our annual vacation to St. Lucia, and I have a 12-year-old son, Jonah. We went to one of the villages, and we were sitting, eating some food. And he came over to me, he said, "Dad, can I have some money?" So I gave him 20, and he came back 10 minutes later. So $80 in, and I want to know what is it that this child is doing with this money. So I step out on the street, and he's standing in the middle of the street. He bought all the chicken that the ladies were selling and was feeding the stray dogs. So there were literally about 25 stray dogs around my son. You know, and he tried to come back to the restaurant where we were, and the proprietor said, "Well, your son cannot come here because these dogs have fleas and ticks." So we ended up, finished up what we were doing, and we left. When we were leaving, he said to me, "Dad, what are you going to do about this?" So dismissingly, I said to him, "Yeah, Jonah, Dad will deal with it." But he kept asking. So I promised him that I would do something. So I went to St. Lucia about 3 weeks ago, and I brought 10 vets with me. And we spayed and neutered about 400 animals. So right now I've taken on another challenge of trying to rid St. Lucia of all the stray dogs, of all the stray cats. And we're trying to just kind of revisit the laws on the books as far as animal welfare, how people treat the animals, the dogs and the cats. And I know people know Caribbean people, it's been a cultural thing with us, and it's not a blanket statement. I know there are incredible people in the Caribbean who take really good care of the animals, you know, but we kind of have to tweak that a little bit and have our animals leashed and collared and taken care of. I mean, we're in a sad situation where a brother came to one of the clinics and had a dog that was so infested with fleas. The fleas were the size of lemon seeds, and they had sucked all the blood from the dog. Even if we put it on an IV, it died. Now the joke in all of this is, which is a joke and not really a joke, I was at the local radio station the last day of the clinic, and somebody asked, the announcer asked if there were any fatalities or any tragedies. And I mentioned, well, one dog died because it was infested with fleas. And as soon as I said that, the phone rang, and a guy called and said, "You mean to tell me I didn't poison the dog?" And the man telling the neighbors I poisoned the dog. You know, so he, you know, 5 minutes he was at the radio station wanting me to sign this long thing that he had written saying that he didn't poison the dog because the guy apparently had reported it to the police.
Oh.
But that was a little side thing. But yeah, we've taken on animal welfare too.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Once again, this coming February, love, herb, reggae. You said the listeners could expect a different tone in this album.
Yeah, there's a little revolution there.
For your fans, for the fans of Adderall that have come to expect your sound, go a little bit deep and explain the difference with this upcoming project.
Oh, we didn't let them down lyrically. I think this is our strongest album lyrically. I mean, the album starts off with a tune called Let Your Voice. And I'm asking people to let their voice be as loud as their silence. We've been silent on too many things that have mattered, and we haven't taken the step of vocalizing it, you know, and not necessarily vocalizing only, but writing something somewhere, letting somebody know that we're not gonna sit idly by and let this happen, you know. It says, my oh my, they thought us shy, thought we would roll over and die. My oh my, they thought us mute, but that our actions did refute. And we're gonna let our voice be as loud as our silence.
Okay,
Yeah.
speaking of your voice, can we let the listeners hear your voice? Maybe something off of the upcoming project?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that.
Okay, DJ Rich, we're gonna do this one a cappella tonight, so I don't need no rhythm. We're gonna let Mr. Weekes speak to the people.
Lover, yen reggae, lover, yen reggae, lover and reggae, put a rhythm to poor man's cry, with a backdrop of Selassie, I follow Sophia and I live forever, never die. Lover in reggae.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, for the listeners who've just heard your voice, heard your mission statement, is there any way the fans could reach out to you online, social media, if they want to speak to you, maybe they want a word of advice?
Yeah, man, we're on Facebook, couple sites. The charity has its own site. They Often Cry Outreach. There's also another site for the UNICEF Champion for Children. And there's the band site, Taj Weekes Interview, and there's my personal site, Taj Weekes. There's also a site for Love, Urban Reggae, where you can go post anything that has to do with love, herb, or reggae. Now, I say this, when I say love, I mean love, not your judgmental love, or your pointing finger love, of who people should love or how they should love. Just love.
Okay. Once again, for the listeners, that was a lot of information you just gave us, a lot of different sites that you can be found on. Can you go over those sites one more time for the listeners?
Okay, on Facebook we have Taj Weekes site, which is my personal site. Then there's the Taj Weekes Interview, which is the band site. Then there's the UNICEF Champion for Children site. And there's a They Often Cry Outreach, which is the Toko site. Okay, there you can see all that we've done, our recent trip to St. Lucia with the animals, what we did with with Dominica, what we're going to do with Dominica, our annual holiday party that comes up. Then you can get our personal website, which is tajweekes.com, or you can get Toko's website, which is theyoftencryoutreach.org. So if you want to support, ask questions, share, feel free to reach us there.
Any upcoming events that the fans could actually attend and take you in live?
I think we have a record release party coming up in February at Joe's Pub.
Okay.
A couple lectures in foreign countries someplace that I have to check with the booking agent to remind me where it is. But yeah, man, just reach out on Facebook.
Okay.
We try to be as uplifting as we possibly can.
And as you travel, do you document, apart from the documentary that you say you're working on, do you document your lectures, your shows, your journeys as you go around the world? Is there a YouTube page that the viewers could find you on?
Yeah, there's definitely a YouTube page. If you go to the tajweekes.com site, you can find the YouTube link and the videos, and
Okay.
you can see what it is that we do. You could also, there's also a link on there for the charity, so you can see, you know, the annual parties. You know, we try to give the kids every year bicycles and scooters so they can run around and, you know, to kind of keep diabetes at bay.
And can we also go to those sites to donate to Toko?
Yeah, if you wish to, yeah, you can definitely go to the charity site and donate and support what it is that we're doing. I mean, and if there's something that you know that's happening and you need me to take a look at it, you know, something that I can jump on and support you in any way. Now, there's a disclaimer with all of this. There are tons of messages for people asking for personal help. But what we do is we help communities. We don't help people to make their car payments and, you know, to fix their house. We're doing community-based projects. So right now we're working on building a new soccer field in St. Lucia. That's a community-based project. Everybody gets something out of that.
Yes.
We're not helping you to do your personal projects. So, I mean, I'm bombarded with it every day. I would appreciate if it would slow down a bit, you know, because it's a bit overwhelming. But just remember that we do community-based projects, not individual level.
Okay. Once again, special guest in the house, Mr. Taj Weekes. TGM Radio, King Lion Caribbean Showcase, every Monday, 4 to 7, 9 to 12 in the UK. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before we tune out tonight?
Just the children of the world, man. The children of the world, the people of the world, you know. The message is always simple. Love your neighbor as yourself. And as always, let your vibes be high and your message mighty.
Okay, this coming February, the album entitled Love, Herb, Reggae by Mr. Taj Weekes and the Ottawa Band. Look out for it, support it. It was a pleasure interviewing you tonight.
Thanks for having us.
TGM Radio.